I'm happy to be here. I got the new iPhone recently, which has facial recognition, so now my birthmark doesn't just get me stares, it also keeps my secrets.
That's the one.
I grew up with facial recognition. It's only new for you people. I can't be sneaky with a birthmark like this, right? I can't go back for seconds at the grocery store sample cart. I mean, come on. The old lady knows, right? She'll give me another mini meatball, but she's mad.
I'm always happy when a joke, when I don't start with the word birthmark, like when I back into it. One thing that I'm opening with right now is, my boyfriend wants to try role play in bed, which is difficult because I have to establish my birthmark as a part of any character that I play. So it like already initially is it becomes kind of a misdirect because like when I'm saying I got the new iPhone, people are like, oh, then we're not talking about her birthmark. Or my boyfriend wants to do role play in bed. Oh, then we're not talking about the thing that I'm looking at that I'm wondering about. And then I'm like, nope, we'll talk about it. Like, I think that's a very fun sort of turn of the corner.
You can't laugh at that.
Welcome to You Can't Laugh at That. This is the podcast where we take topics that aren't funny and then we prove that they are funny by inviting comedians onto the show who have done just that. Today, I, David Horning, am joined by my co-host, Jeremy Demery, filling in for Steve, who is still missing. And we have brought into the podcast, I'm really excited to have her, Chloe Radcliffe from Minnesota, currently in New York City. What's going on, Chloe?
Hello. Hi. How are you?
I am fantastic. And this is the natural part of the conversation where people, when they introduce their new friend to their audience, where they talk about all of their credits. Chloe is a New York City-based writer and comic. She's a writer for The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. She's been named a TBS comic to watch at the New York Comedy Festival. She's been seen on Epics, selected for NBC's 2019 Late Night Writers Workshop. Listed as one of Thrillist's 50 best undiscovered comics. Was that the state-by-state one?
That was the state-by-state one. And anyway, okay. I don't need to belittle a credit that I have in my own bio. But hey, look at that. I really should take that one out of the bio.
Got it. I know Mary Santora, who's a Cleveland comic, was the Ohio one that year, I think. So that's pretty cool. That's a cool connection. And it also mentioned that you had done 6 years of improv.
Yes, I did do 6 years of improv. Not in the way that people who actually do improv did improv. I did improv all through college, it was all short form. Like we were in a troupe that we performed every week, but it was all short form. And then I did a little bit of long form in Minneapolis after. And like took a couple classes. I got laid off from like a big kid corporate job and was like, all right, I'm going to do the performance stuff I've always wanted to do. And I took some improv classes and then I did literally one stand-up open mic being like, I don't want to miss a thing. Like, what if it's great? I'm probably going to hate it, but I'll try it. And immediately I was like, oh, no. Here it is. I found it. Yes, I discovered it.
Yeah, I kind of went through, not the same thing, but like I started in sketch in New York. And then I did stand-up for the first time. And I was like, oh, this is the thing. Yeah. This is what I've been trying to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So 6 years of improv. How do you think that impacts your style as far as doing stand up?
Honestly, I'm sure this is not 100% true, but I do not think that 6 years of improv helped my stand up at all. I think if anything, if I had done stand up, I think I would have been much better, certainly at short form improv, because it's just immediate joke writing. And I just like didn't really fully understand that in college. And I wasn't a comedy nerd. I'm so jealous of people who were comedy nerds like all through high school and all through college. And I just like really wasn't. I think partially it felt a little inaccessible to me, or I didn't have like a ton of exposure to it. But then also partially I just was really, really embedded in the world of speech and debate all through college, middle school, high school, and college. And so like what I would spend my days like, downloading illegal copies of was fucking high school humorous interpretation performances at the national tournament for, high school speech. So like, that's what I was busy nerding out about. And so I think just like stuff like the basics of like punchline writing and joke writing and like, and understanding that that's what short form in particular is, but even understanding how to lace that through in long form, that like it was not nearly as front of mind because I was paying attention to something else.
Would you say that because of your experience in speech and debate, you are a better writer and you're better at articulating like an argument on stage?
And a better performer and a better like self-coacher and a better, literally speech is the thing that like made me do stand-up in the way that I do. And I don't just mean like how I say a joke on stage. That I actually think is probably the most significant departure from speech, but like all of the corollary skills that came from speech, like being in a high pressure environment and having to like coach, like talk yourself through it and like not freak out, is like, that just feels like being in a tournament, or like being in a big tournament or whatever, being the only person on stage, performing for 2 people, performing for 2,000 people, being in a lineup, being implicitly judged, having time signals, being timed, like writing for yourself, cutting your own lines when they don't work. Literally like all of those corollary skills I learned in speech for 10 years. And so when I started, I think at this point it probably has like leveled out a little bit, but the first certainly 3 or 4 years that I did stand up, everybody always would guess that I was doubly far in. Like it was very consistent. At 1 year, they guessed 2 years. At 2 years, they guessed 4 years. And you want me to keep doing the math? Wow, I'm a math major.
I want to know what's next. I was one of those kids who would keep like multiplying things on a calculator and see how high it would go.
Anyway, so yeah, that I think that like speech is what gave me like I like just walked into stand up at a much higher level. And I don't mean better than everybody else. I just mean like more experienced than anybody else who was starting their first open mic.
No, for sure. Do you think that's what kind of drove you to keep doing it? Or
I think that for sure is the thing that like when I did that first open mic and I was like, oh, this is it. I was like, oh, this is grown up speech. I already knew that there was grown up improv. I knew that there was grown up theater, which were the other 2 things that I did. But I was like, I wish there was grown up speech, but there really isn't, other than coaching, which is fine. But like, I don't want to be creating other people's art.
Right.
Yeah. Fuck those kids. Anyway, don't fuck those kids. Anyway, but
you heard it here first, folks.
Write that down. Anyway, so yeah. When I tried stand up, I was like, oh, this is the grown up speech that I've been looking for.
Okay. Speaking of grown up speech, you talk a lot about grown up topics because you're a grown up. It's weird how that works on stage. And one of the topics that really endeared me to your stage presence, to your style, to your joke writing was insecurities. Was approaching these things that most people would rather have left unsaid. And you're up there. It's the first thing that you address when you get on stage. So kind of take us through what drove you to start talking about these things that like would make the normal person uncomfortable.
Also, specifically, what insecurities are you talking about?
Well, you approach a couple of them, but the one that stands out obviously is the birthmark.
Right. I do have a big birthmark on my face. Yeah. I'm also insecure about not being able to throw a baseball. But I'm going to start every set with that.
The obvious thing, right?
Yeah. All right. Let me address the elephant in the room.
I just assumed because you're a lady, you can't throw a baseball.
Right. Well, my brain's too small. Yeah. I can't help that. I address my birthmark at the top of almost every set. It is the percentage of sets where I don't address my birthmark gets higher every year in stand-up. And I think that that's a good thing. But like, generally, I'm going to talk about it near the beginning of the set, if not the very first thing. And honestly, I don't really think of my birthmarks as an insecurity. There are like still moments in my life where it is, but for the most part, not. For the most part, I'm like, whatever. It's what my face looks like. So figure it out.
Does it get tiring having to address it all the time?
Sometimes in some contexts. So basically it's like in a set that is slightly less loose, any degree of less loose than the loosest set, then it's just going to be like, yeah, of course I'm going to do this because the audience is looking at my face and they're going, hey, what is that? And so I'm like, I will deal with that right away. And also, honestly, it like opens, I think maybe it's less of an insecurity, but it's more of like being vulnerable. Like it really does sort of set the tone for like, I'm going to be honest with you and you can trust me that like when you notice something, hey, that's weird, I'm going to deal with it and I'm going to address it. I'm not going to make you feel crazy to audience members. But in terms of like, does it get tiring to address? Sometimes it is like, I just have other shit to work on. But for the most part, I will just say like, also like at a mic, unless I'm working on a new birthmark joke, I never talk about my birthmark because it's like all of my friends have seen my face a million times and they are sick of hearing about it. But every once in a while, if I really don't want to talk about it, but I feel like I'm in a room where like I have to address it, I will be like, hey, it's a birthmark. I'm not going to fuck you. Which is like such a stupid shorthand of a joke that makes a lot of sense when I say the whole joke, but when I don't say the whole joke, people are just like, what the fuck are you talking about? and then but it's like really just my own shorthand. I'm like, I'm not going to fuck you. And I don't really want to talk about my birthmark tonight. You get it. It's on my face. You can see it. Anyway, here's what I actually want to talk about. I will like explicitly address. So I guess I still am addressing it. I guess I still am saying, this is what it is, and here we're moving on. But I just find that in all social interactions, and certainly in stand-up, but in all social interactions, the like easiest thing is to just very explicitly be like, I'm going to stop talking about this now, and I'm going to talk about a different thing.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has their thing that like they kind of address about themselves all the time anyways. Like my thing is I always, I was homeschooled. So I always talk about my experiences being homeschooled.
I could tell.
Exactly. See? So I have to address it. That's why I have this weird eccentric personality and I don't know how to socially interact with individuals because I was homeschooled. I didn't have those social interactions growing up. So sometimes I say stupid shit at the wrong time. Probably I shouldn't even be speaking right now. This is probably an inappropriate time to be speaking up, but yet here we are. But we all have these little like quirks that we all address all the time, and I can see it kind of like when you're there to specifically work on something. Like if I don't have to address it if I don't want to, being homeschooled or whatever.
Right.
So I think it might be a little tiresome going like, oh, got it. Just so we can all move on from this. Yes, I know this is there. And then go into your material.
Yes. Like the tiresome feeling has arisen at times. And I honestly think that what it has done is actually just pushed me to write more fun birthmark material. Like I have a joke where I talk about being catcalled for something other than my birthmark. And also, honestly, I'm not really catcalled for my birthmark. Like last night I was just like walking somewhere in Manhattan and a guy was sitting on the stoop and he goes, that's a beautiful birthmark. And I was like, thank you so much. And to me, that doesn't feel like a catcall. That feels like a very specific compliment. And like, was he probably horny? Of course. But like, was it that, but it's like, I was like, thanks. You used the word birthmark. I like that so much more than mole. I didn't say any of that, but like, I don't love the word mole. Like, I don't, so that was like a very sweet little interaction.
I'm just glad it didn't take a weird turn where he's like, it's a really nice birthmark and tits.
Right. No, I certainly have gotten like creepy shit about, I have gotten creepy catcalls that involve my birthmark, but I also, anyway, so I open with a joke where it's about being catcalled for something other than my birthmark. And it's obvious what I'm addressing, but I don't say the word birthmark for like a minute and a half. And I ask an audience member, how would you describe my face? I'm like daring somebody to say the word. And every once in a while it does.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much.
I would say like one in 20 times somebody does say birthmark, but it's really rare. And most of the time people are like, pretty eyes.
And that person should be applauded for their bravery.
Yeah, for the person who says birthmark. Oh, totally.
Yes.
I'm always like, incredible. I admire you. That's great. Like this is a dare and you won the dare. No one wins the dare. Yeah. I'm always impressed by it. But Anyway, so like when I started writing that, I was like, oh, this is such a fucking fun way to address my birthmark that doesn't that like eliminates the tiresome feeling, because it's just that, like, you know, my early birthmark jokes were all, here's a weird thing somebody said to me. Here's a funny comeback that I didn't say in the moment, but am saying on stage. Here's a weird thing somebody said. Like, it's just rinse and repeat. And that's a fine joke structure, but like, I just am getting more creative with it now.
It's a fun writing exercise too. It's like write jokes about it without mentioning it explicitly. That's super fun to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's play one of Chloe's clips. So we're not just referencing some phantom thing that you look up yourself.
No, it's a birthmark. That's what it is. It doesn't lower my self-esteem enough for me to sleep with you. In high school, kids used to call me a freak because of my birthmark, and I was bad at social interaction. So my witty retort was, I am a freak of nature. It turns out you can score on your own team. They count it. I look back and I can recognize now that I was trying to reclaim the word freak, right? Take back the power. But you can't reclaim a word as just one person. It took thousands of women standing up and saying, that's right, we are bitches, to reclaim the word bitch. If one woman stands up and is like, that's right, I am a bitch. Everyone in the room is like, so we're agreed. We don't like you.
I love that joke.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So you address it. I love the idea of reclaiming the word. That's something. So my last name is Horning, and so I found that when I would resist getting picked on for it, like, people would have more fun with me. Whereas I was like, yeah.
Everybody just called you David Morning. Yeah. Oh no, we lost him right as I made that perfect joke. Anyway, keep going. Yeah.
Goddamn Zoom.
Right.
When she said morning.
Yes. What you were saying when you played along with it.
Yeah, when I played along with it, they were like, oh, this kid isn't fun to pick on anymore. Let's move on to the next one.
For sure.
So like reclaiming it, and I even still have to deal with that. I was speaking at a conference, and then the woman like laughed at my last name as she introduced me. So I'm like, so I have this whole bit, like, I don't like to start with the bit anymore because I know it works, and it's like a routine thing that I do. And so I just like, yeah, my last name's Horning. You don't want to pick on the horny kid because the horny kid is unpredictable. And like, I was like, this wasn't part of my set list. So kind of going back to what you were saying earlier. But I love the idea of trying to reclaim the word freak. When did you come to that realization? Like when you were younger, that it was just like, fuck it, this is who I am. I got to lean into this.
I would say, I mean, it was not a conscious realization. Like, I became aware. It's like, it's only in reflecting on the memory that I'm like, oh, that's what I was trying to do. I could, like, you know, instinctively feel that there was going to be some power in doing the unexpected thing, which is agreeing with them and like then making it my own. But I was doing it so clumsily. I mean, like, I'm a freak of nature is like kind of is mean to myself. Like, I wish that I'm like embarrassed that I said it. It's, you know, like, ugh. But it is like, I was just a weird little kid. And I wasn't homeschooled, but I was an only child with a single mom who just like loved me very, very much. And I never learned how to fight back. I never learned how to pick on people. I never learned how to like, I never learned, honestly, it's like, oh, I wish that I knew how to write punchlines as a kid. I wish I was more of a comedy nerd because I bet I would have like come up with funnier comebacks. I'm bad at comebacks. Anyway, so I just was like scrabbling for anything.
You said you were a part of the debate team?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not good at comebacks?
Well, I did speech. Debate is for the nerds. Speech kids do coke.
You said you used to watch tapes of other high school students doing speech?
Yes.
That is a very specific nerdiness. Have you ever met somebody who also has that, like...
the whole world of high school speech. Honestly, my like second serious boyfriend, I guess, was a guy who had won nationals in the category, his national winning speech I like had memorized. He was like my idol, and then we wound up dating, and it was like, oh, like if you could have told me in high school, like, don't worry, you're gonna date that guy, I would have been like, what? And then the relationship was very mediocre. But anyway,
never date your heroes.
Yeah, don't date your heroes.
Wow. Okay, yeah, because we kind of like grazed over that real quick, and I was like, we're not going to address the fact that it's such a specific nerdiness.
I am dork central, and I think I like honestly, I think it's like I am physically attractive enough, I am socially like smooth enough that people are like, no, you're not. I'm like, oh, I wasn't popular in high school, and people are like, you must have been popular. Like people like I get that reaction a lot, and I'm like, no. The version of me that you are seeing and meeting now has taken 30 years to like figure the fuck out.
Yeah,
I'm happy with it, but
I always say that I am an introvert who's trained to be extroverted, and you do have like watching you on stage in that clip is like, man, you have great stage presence. Just everything, the body language is fantastic, and you seem very in control of yourself and that. I mean, maybe that's possibly why you put the YouTube video up, to present to people. But it seemed very natural to a point where it's like, oh, this is just who she is most of the time.
I think it pretty much is. Yeah. And everybody's stage persona is like, some degree of extreme version of their real persona. But I would say that mine is like pretty close. But yeah. I think also the like control, like the body language, the control of yourself on stage, I attribute a lot of that to speech.
Yeah. I can see that being beneficial.
I never did coke, by the way. I heard of other people doing coke, and I was like, cocaine? No, that's a sin. I was a good kid. Anyway.
Me too. And then I became an adult.
Yeah.
Me three.
Yeah. No, I don't do that stuff anymore. But anyway. So going like piggybacking off of what Jeremy was saying, you have this on stage confidence. Versus you're talking about a very awkward time in your formative years, like as a kid, like coming up with what you thought was a comeback. And high school is so awkward. It's filled with the most awful people because everybody's trying to cover up their own insecurities by projecting onto other people.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like for you?
Being in high school, you mean?
Yeah.
I think I've always known that I am smart, and that has always intellect has always been a big priority for me in myself and in the people that I'm around. And so of course in high school that meant that like I was a nerd, I was the teacher's pet, I was the like, I honestly like was yeah. And I would like kind of dick around. I don't think I was a good student, despite the fact that I got very good grades. Like I didn't study very much because I could just kind of like breeze by whatever. And so I just like, I had a lovely time in high school, but for the fact that I like felt, I don't know, I had a great group of friends. We were all we were not the lowest rung of the social ladder, but we were the second lowest, I would say. And the only time I ever got asked to a dance was by a guy who was on the lowest rung of the social ladder. And we were in the, oh no, this was separate. He gave me a Valentine's Day card and he asked me to dance, two separate things. I think I said no to the dance. And then, yeah, for sure, because I didn't go with him. But the Valentine's Day card, he gave me a Valentine's Day card, and the popular girl was in the classroom. It was like empty. It was me and him and one more girl who was much more popular than we were. And I was mean to him because I wanted to impress Mandy. Like, anyway.
Classic Mandy.
And now Rob is like jacked and makes $600,000 a year doing underwater welding or something like that. I missed the fuck out. But anyway. Whoops.
You had the right idea, Rob.
Yep.
All right.
Happily married. I hope they're having a lovely time.
He's now my hero. I'll tell you that much. We should have gotten Rob on this.
I know. I hope at some point this makes it back to Rob and he's like, oh, well, good to know.
Yeah. Well, I can close that chapter in my life.
Yeah.
You just made him a more complete person in this process too.
Also, the only thing is like, what if he doesn't think of himself as the lowest rung of the social ladder, not just being an asshole. Anyway, who knows?
I was totally unaware of the fact that he was like, I thought people seem cool to me.
Yeah, I thought I was fine.
I mean, she was mean. I get that part. That part I understand. But social?
I have friends. Yeah.
Which brings me to my next question. What was it like in high school to have friends?
Look, I'm not gonna lie, it felt pretty good. By senior year, I was like starting to be sort of adopted by a group of very popular people, because there was like there were one or two guys who were like, oh, she's funny. She's really funny. And I honestly think it's that like the women in that group were not, I don't mean to fault them, but like, I think when you are hot and also maybe rich as a high school girl, there's no value in being funny. You just are already hot and rich, and why the fuck would you do anything else?
I don't have to evolve my personality.
Right. And so they were not particularly funny. And I don't mean that because they're not funny people, but like, I think in high school, you're just already insecure and hot and rich and great, you're done. And I was, I had learned to use humor early. And so I started to be like folded into this way more popular friend group very weirdly as a senior. And that group is actually like still, a lot of them are still my good friends now, which I still have a complex about. Like if one of them, there's one guy who lives in Manhattan, and he's a fashion he's like hot and a fashion photographer, and he's around models all the time and whatever. And if he's like, hey, come out, and it's like 11:30 and I'm in bed, I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. You need me.
You can't laugh at that.
I was on the bus, and a woman across from me was so beautiful, had to have been a model. And I couldn't stop staring at her until I realized, oh my God, I'm doing to her what people do to me all the time about my birthmark. And I was like, holy shit, I know what it's like to be a model. That's it, right? That's who gets stared at, the beautiful people and the weirdos. The only difference is the beautiful people get free drinks and the weirdos get free touches. People stare at my birthmark all the time. I'm used to it, I get it. Sometimes I am like, hey buddy, eyes down here. Never on the street though.
You say, all right.
Like you were saying earlier, you address it and then you move on. So in each one of these videos, it's like within the first minute, you're done. You've already said what you had to say and you move on. I love this take on it too, because you kind of put yourself in somebody else's shoes, which, as you know, I mean, that's great. That's a great way to build an argument, like stating your case. Was that like based on a true experience?
100%. It's I now say cafe. It was honestly where it happened was I can't say this on stage because it sounds either confusing or douchey. But it happened I was in Belize with an ex, and we were on a boat going to an island. We were on like a ferry going to some island that we were going to stay on. And there was a woman who I truly, I mean, the ferry is like 45 minutes long or something. And I truly had to be like, Radcliffe, stop staring at her. She just was so beautiful. And I just wrote like a quick note. I was like, I know what it's like to be a model. And that is a punchline that I like still don't understand why it works. I still don't understand why it's funny. It was a first draft that I was like, I'm going to have to fix this later, but like, it's an idea for a joke. And it's like, it's very consistent. Yeah. Anyway, but yes, that is 100% like that happened. And it was just it's pulled directly from life.
It's a great subversion of I don't know why it's funny either, but it just is.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Like, I mean, don't you equally hate but love when you write a joke that isn't even finished yet, and then it gets a laugh, and it's like, but is it finished? Like, right?
It's very confusing because then you feel like you haven't put the work in, and you're like, yeah.
That's great. And then the hey buddy, eyes down here. Another subversion of like being a woman. Like,
a common
most
trope,
people want the opposite. Yeah. So.
It's fun. Like, speaking of, you're talking about like how to make an audience comfortable with with stuff that they might not be comfortable with. So the end of that joke, the end of the model joke is actually, I think, a very good example of like a way that I was failing to make the audience comfortable with something. And I've changed it. I don't say, so I used to say beautiful people get free drinks, weirdos get free touches. And I mean that because like people do touch my birthmark, not constantly, but like enough that it's a thing that I'm like aware of strangers are about to touch my birthmark, whatever, in a bar or just like in some weird environment.
Yeah.
I've had probably like 3 times I've had men in bars kiss or lick my birthmark, like just like out of the blue. Yeah. Anyway, so
weird.
But so the free touches thing is like, it's an uncomfortable explanation. It's an uncomfortable bridge for the audience to cross, given that I haven't already talked. I think maybe it would be even if I had already talked about people touching my birthmark without asking, but especially given that I haven't, it's just like the word touches is a little creepy. Like I'm saying it because it's creepy, but it's not divorced enough from reality for the audience. And so it just like lends this like creepy tone to that moment. And you can hear in the clip, people be like, and I've changed that line to, the only difference is between the model and me, the only difference is she's like, no pictures. And I'm like, no pictures. And then that is like, it's putting it back on me rather than the joke is about like me being goofy. It's not about other people being creepy with no comeback to the creepiness.
Yeah.
Got it. It's weird how that simple trick can reframe an audience's mindset very quickly.
Yeah.
But also the way you say touches though is like hilarious.
Oh, great. Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, just the way you say it, like, and I feel like that's what, like in that clip, you're talking about how it it could have been better, but in that clip, like the audience responded positively to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you do that too in another clip that we're about to play. Just kind of the way you enunciate a word is funny in itself. So it kind of takes away from the reality of what you're actually talking about. Like people actually coming up to you and touching it. That's absurd to me.
Yeah.
People do that.
Yeah.
That's insane. My girlfriend has like sleeves, like she has tattoos, and she works she used to be a bartender. She's a manager now, but like guys would just reach across the bar and like touch her arm and like ask her about her tattoos, and she's like, what?
Yeah.
What reality is this okay? Like, these aren't the rules.
Yeah.
It's not how this goes.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Ugh. All right, let's talk about the last clip. This would be clip number 2 since we're doing things out of order.
I got it this time, and I got time
starts 0 to 110.
Yeah, I got it this time. I was prepared.
Hell yeah!
I'm happy to be here. I got the new iPhone recently, which has facial recognition. So now my birthmark doesn't just get me stares; it also keeps my secrets.
That's the one.
I grew up with facial recognition. It's only new for you people. I can't be sneaky with a birthmark like this, right? I can't go back for seconds at the grocery store sample cart. I mean, come on. The old lady knows, right? She'll give me another mini meatball, but she's mad. I can't be sneaky. I couldn't be a criminal with a birthmark like this. A 6-year-old could do the police sketch. It would be a stick figure with a birthmark, and people would be like, I've seen that person before. I know that one. My mom gave me, I'm home now. I'm from New York, and I'm home, and my mom gave me a funny compliment. My mom looked at me, and she said, your face is so symmetrical. That's the only wrong answer. I've been thinking about parenting a lot recently. I live with a baby, and it's not my baby. Because you're supposed to make mistakes in your 20s, and I'm roommates with a mistake.
It's so funny.
I've cut that line because I love it, but it just does not work, or it's just not consistent. People, they're on the baby's side.
Have you tried like putting a smaller punch before that to kind of introduce the fact that like maybe the baby was an accident?
Maybe I could go back to that. I've changed it to I lived with the baby, not like I stole it. I just had 2 roommates and then they became 3 roommates. Maybe I could work back in the mistakes once they know. Okay, that's a good idea, actually. Wow, look at you punching up my bits.
Well, I love that joke, and the O from the audience. Like when I get the O from the audience, I love that reaction. But it also tells me that, well, maybe I'm asking them to jump across too big of a divide here. So I always like tinker with it a little bit, and then if I don't get any laugh, it's like, okay, I shortened it too much, or I made it too far. Like it's just a constant tweaking. But the facial recognition, that's such a creative way to talk about it. So this kind of goes back into talking about like all the different ways that you can address it without like being super explicit about it. I love it so much.
Yeah. I'm always happy when a joke, when I don't start with the word birthmark, like when I back into it, I got an iPhone, which has facial recognition. So now my birthmark, like that can be a full opener. One thing that I'm opening with right now is, my boyfriend wants to try role play in bed, which is difficult because I have to establish my birthmark as a part of any character that I play. So it like already initially is it becomes kind of a misdirect because like when I'm saying I got the new iPhone, people are like, oh, then we're not talking about her birthmark. Or my boyfriend wants to do role play in bed. Oh, then we're not talking about the thing that I'm looking at that I'm wondering about. And then I'm like, nope, we'll talk about it. Like, I think that's a very fun sort of turn of the corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it also, first, the way, you say it keeps my secrets. That's like, I love the way that
my secrets.
You're almost
it's like such a sassy aunt. I felt like I was listening to. Keeps my secrets. And then like, the way the shoulder bob thing that you did, I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. And all of that, like none of that is choreographed. That's all. I guess like when I do that joke, I guess I do deliver it like that pretty consistently, but like, it's just what I think is funny about the line. I think the idea of being like, ooh, it keeps my secret is a funny version of saying that.
No, I like that's again, like it doesn't seem like any of that's really forced. I think that's what sometimes gets me a little frustrated sometimes watching certain comedians, because you can tell those certain things that they do, both body language and like little quirky things that they do with their voice. Like, oh, that was planned.
Manufactured.
Yeah. And watching you do that, it's like, oh, no, that's like just who you are as a person, which is really refreshing to see that you can do these things and then not be phony.
Great. Thank you. I take that as a huge compliment.
And you're having fun. At least that's how it comes across.
Yeah.
When you're on
very
stage.
much so.
So like you can take any topic, and if you attach that demeanor to it, it kind of changes the way the audience is hearing it, which is interesting to me. Another thing that you do too is you install like a new script in people's heads about what facial recognition is. So like, I've been living with it my whole life. It's new for you, but so now like, even if they're not consciously thinking about it, like in the back of their heads, they're like, oh, like, wow, she has a totally different definition of what this thing that we think we know is.
Yes. And that I like hint a little bit at like, I've had it my whole life and I get it. Like, I've been dealing with this. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
It's great. And then I love the hypotheticals part of it. Like that's one of my favorite ways of finding new jokes out of a topic, is because if you come up with a hypothetical scenario of like what you can or can't do in a situation, like you can get really creative and have a lot of fun with it. And it's one of my favorite writing exercises. Like that's what I fill up this whiteboard with most of the time, is just like getting hypothetical with weird things. So not being able to be sneaky with it, like that's such a fun visualization of you at like a Costco or IKEA or whatever.
It's very funny to think of that as hypothetical, because to me that is so grounded in me trying to get seconds at the grocery store sample cart and I can't. And I'm like, oh yeah, or like I can, but I just like feel like so much more of an asshole than otherwise, than if I wasn't super recognizable. And then the criminal, I guess, is the like true hypothetical part of it.
Yeah. So you start from a place that's more rooted in reality, and then you introduce yourself as a criminal, but you can't do that because for obvious reasons. That's so funny. And then you kind of play in the silliness of like having a 6-year-old draw.
Yeah. That anybody could do the police sketch.
That's so fun. Well, one trick that I use if I have writer's block is like, how would a 6-year-old think about my behavior or whatever,
awesome.
like whatever this topic is. And so like that kind of reminded me of that.
Cool.
What would a 6-year-old do in this situation? Oh, easily be able to draw me.
Yeah. That's an awesome writer's block tool.
It is strange to say out loud, though.
Sure.
Yeah. If I could only get into the mind of a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Wow. Get a kid over here.
You don't want to know what's behind this door.
Yeah.
David's running around the neighborhood interviewing children of the age of 6.
The neighborhood watch group is like,
what's this guy doing?
He's constantly going up to 6-year-olds asking them, how did that make you feel?
Yeah. Which is funny because I'm working on 2 bits about 4-year-olds. So,
cool.
Maybe you shouldn't.
This is a good look.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great time to bring it up.
Just committing to the bit. Just committing to the bit. So let's see. Did I have any questions here? Oh, your mom, the funny compliment. I noticed in another clip you used somebody else. You used a friend. Was that like bringing it closer to yourself? Does that help make connected to an audience or
no, honestly, I just think that is a line that like isn't really a standalone line. What that line really comes from is actually from the bit that I was talking about earlier about the catcall joke where I'm asking people to describe my face. I haven't said the word birthmark. I'm going to the audience, and 2 times, this is 100% true. 2 times, a person has described my face as symmetrical. In like an audience member has, and it's so funny. And the first time it happened, it just was so fucking hilarious. And I think I just said that's the only wrong answer to them, and it just did very well.
Yeah.
And so then I just transported that into the bit, and so in the bit when I go into the audience, whatever they say, pretty eyes or whatever, I say thank you so much. That's a better cat call or whatever. And then I say one time I asked. And I use it also kind of as a function of like making the audience member feel, because sometimes they're like, they feel awkward. They feel like they've said the wrong thing. And so I can sort of say like, that whatever you said is not the weirdest thing that I've heard. One time a guy said symmetrical, and that's the only wrong answer. And that like does really, really well because it is in the context of the bit. And so I've like tried to transplant that line outside of that bit, and it works just fine, but it doesn't ever work as well as I want it to.
Yeah, it worked there. And it is a funny line. I think I remember seeing that clip a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So,
such
okay,
a strange compliment.
Oh yeah, your TikTok. You had a video that it like all the comments from. Is it from like a YouTube video or was it like TikTok?
Oh, those are TikTok comments. Those are our TikTok comments.
Okay. A lot of just like. Do you think she knows, or like, what's that on her face? And the fact that you like address it so openly, again, that disarms and calls out the short-sighted, like low hanging fruit, like check yourself of the whole exchange. So kind of explain like why you share that on TikTok. That one. Well, I mean, like, I had a couple videos. Also, sorry if you can hear a motorcycle in the background. It is so annoying. And he just has this giant fucking chopper that is idling on the sidewalk. And I am very mad at him. Anyway. That's what they do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what motorcycles are for sitting on the fucking sidewalk. Anyway. This
thing's got 5 miles on it. I've had it for 15 years.
But listen to how loud it sounds. Anyway. I had a couple videos go like viral, like go hit in the million views range. And of course I'm going to get like tons of shit. And also there is a degree of like, there's nothing, there are very few things that anybody could say, oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me. He moved it from the sidewalk to the middle of the road and he's idling in the middle of the road. And I hate him. Anyway. Okay, sorry, this is so distracting. There are very few things that anybody can say about my birthmark that I haven't heard or that that would offend me.
Mm-hmm.
It is very, very, very hard to be hurtful about my birthmark. Not impossible. But like all of the TikTok comments about like, also the examples that you gave are pretty tame. You know, does she know? That very easy. Most of them were like, she's got shit all over her face, or like, it looks like a ham sandwich with hair, or like whatever the fuck the comments were, you know, some absurd thing. And I don't find it offensive at all. But I'm like, oh, I think it's very fun to make a joke. What the end of the TikTok video is me just like watching all these comments roll by, and then I go, oh my God, do I have something on my face? And that is like, to me, it's like, that's the disarming. Mm-hmm. And I just want to sort of make the point of like, I don't fucking like, yeah, what do you think you're doing? Also, the best explanation I ever got, and this is way beyond just my birthmark, but somebody was like trolling me on TikTok, and somebody else, a comment. I never respond to any of the comments, I only read them sometimes. But
that's a can of worms.
Yeah. Somehow the mean comments don't bother me very much. The ones that really got to me were, there was a while where people were saying that I have really scraggly teeth, which I kind of do, and I had never been super self-conscious about it until TikTok, and now I'm like, my teeth. But anyway.
It's got to be nice to have something new to be insecure about, though.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's what it is. It's that like, I'm so like, my skin is so thick about my birthmark, or my skin is so thick about like women aren't funny or whatever. Like that, none of that shit bothers me. But my skin is not very thick about my teeth, because nobody ever talks about them. And so then when there were a lot of people being like, your teeth are fucked up, I was like, my teeth are fucked up, you know. But anyway, but I saw somebody. Somebody was writing some mean comment. I have no idea what it was. And somebody else wrote, why are you being mean? And the original commenter responded, because it's free. And that is the best explanation of mean internet people that I can possibly come up with. Mm. And honestly, that also like disarms meanness on the internet to me. It's like, why are you doing this? Because it's free, because it's there. It's easy. It's in front of me. Like, of course, that's why. Yeah. So comments don't really, affect me that much.
And also these people are cheating themselves out of the fact that your face is so symmetrical. So
yeah, right. Exactly. What the hell?
They're totally missing out on the point.
Right.
Yeah. To me, like it's free. That's just like, it's lazy. It's lazy. It's like lazy joke writing. It's like, let's pick the obvious thing.
Wait, you mean the punchline of it's free?
No, that just tells me like,
Oh, yes. You mean
it's an easy line. Like it's right there.
When they're like, does she know she has shit on her face?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're not. I think we get hard on them for being like, so like, yeah, it's first thought, but they don't think of jokes like we think of jokes. Like they're not spending all day reworking it, rewording it, and all this. They're just going to say the first thing that comes to mind and put that out there, not because they want it to be a good joke. They're just trying to be mean. Mm. That's their objective, is to be mean and not smart.
Right.
And chances are pretty good if they were to put out a video and people were to comment like that on their video, they wouldn't take it the same way you do.
No, probably not.
For sure.
Probably not.
For sure. Yeah, that's the thing that gets me. Is like, if anyone has something shitty to say about anybody else, it's like, why don't you create something? Like, go create something and like have other people pick it apart. Because no matter how good it is, no matter what it is, people are going to pick it apart. And rather than get insecure about it, just own it.
Yeah.
So if you were to offer any advice, first of all, to a comic who wants to tackle their own insecurity or address the elephant in the room, something about their appearance or their name or whatever it is, how would you, if they were to come to you and ask you that question, how would you respond?
I think that, and this is outside of stand-up. I like my sort of personal ethos is generally to say the thing that is unsaid. And I think that like, that's a lot of my humor in interpersonal situations too, is like naming the elephant in the room. Doesn't have to be a birthmark. It can be like, I'm trying to think of what, but like I had some awkward interaction with somebody recently. I can't remember what it was. And the reason that it was awkward was because I was with multiple people, but the reason that whatever the interaction was because one of the people was way hotter than everybody else. And I I wish I could remember what happened, but something happened and everybody was kind of like, and I was like, yeah, and it's just because this hot guy saw or whatever. I'm like, that's enough of a joke. And that breaks the tension. And also it's honest. Like the reason that it's funny is because it's real. Mm-hmm. And so to me, I think that's how I operate generally. And so then that winds up being like, I think I actually thought that you were going to touch on, or I have a bit about, or I don't know, thought that you were going to touch on. Anyway, cut that. I have a bit about feeling self-conscious about my boobs not being perky enough. And I would say that is actually my most direct bit about an insecurity. That the stuff about my birthmark is less directly about insecurities, and it's more about like, this is a thing on my face that I deal with constantly. But that like I feel insecure about my boobs not being perky enough. That is the joke, and I like say the word insecure in there. And to me, it's like, again, it's like addressing it head on, and then I talk about like how I handled it and how I felt about it and how I feel about it now. But like, just I'm not dancing around anything. And also, I think that when it's in the same way that false modesty feels phony, to use your word, Jeremy, which, excuse me, I think phony is such a perfect word for it. I think that like false confidence also feels phony. And so if there's I think it's easy. It would be easy for me to be like, yeah, my boobs don't look like what they look like in the magazine, and fuck you. Who gives a shit? I'm great. I'm hot. Fuck you. And like, that's not how I feel at all. And so then it wouldn't come off as honest for me. And to me, it's just like, what is the most honest version of the most honest thing is, I think, always the most funny, or almost always.
I think it's so funny that you're disappointed in the fact that we, two heterosexual males, didn't bring you on to talk about your boobs.
All right, let's talk about the bit where you talk about your tits.
How creepy would we look if we did that?
Honestly, yes. Okay. Credit to you. Yes. Let me bring that one up.
Yeah.
Hey, right, come on our show.
I have 5 pages written about.
Yes.
Let's talk about those meat puppets you got on your chest there. All right. Yeah, honey. We'll call you honey the whole time, like a couple of fucking old weirdos.
Oh, that's very funny. That's a very good point.
That is fun. I was like, that is the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's like, I thought you guys were going to bring me on here to talk about my boobs.
Who did you think we were?
I wish you would have brought. I wish you would have brought my boobs.
That's very funny, and 100% right.
Yeah,
this isn't the man show.
Something you'll never hear outside of a comics.
Yeah, a podcast with comics.
Yeah, this isn't or not. Oh my god, I even said this isn't Letterman. What was the radio guy?
Howard Stern.
This isn't Howard Stern, and this isn't the man show. So, our apologies.
Yeah.
Now we'll bring you on for another episode.
We'll bring you back and talk about your boobs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That'll be you can't laugh at boobs.
Yeah, if you had to give advice to a young comic who wants to talk about their boobs, what would you say? Okay. Next question.
Yeah.
Next topic.
No, next question is what do you where can we find you on social media if there's anything?
Oh wow, look at that. I am at Chloe Radcliffe on all platforms, which is like my name, Chloe Radcliffe, but bad. And I'm on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok as that. And I will be, if anybody is in Minnesota, I'm headlining my home club, the best place in the world, the Comedy Corner Underground in Minneapolis, October 15th and 16th. There will be 4 shows, and they will all sell out because I am very popular. So if anybody's in Minnesota, get your tickets.
Yeah, you hear that, Rob?
Yeah, Rob. Rob. I think he lives in North Carolina now. Why do I know that?
Got away.
We'll leave that for the boobs episode.
Yeah, we'll just say come back for part 2. We talk about Chloe Radcliffe's breasts to put it properly.
All right, Jeremy, is there anything else you want to add?
Come see my show at Gunzelman's this Sunday, which this episode airs after Sunday. So you know what? Thank you for coming out.
And that's my plug too.
Also, see, you can't laugh at that live for the Cleveland Comedy Festival.
Fun.
So that is confirmed.
We're making it official. Hell yeah. Yeah, we had a live run at the Six City Comedy Festival. We're doing it again. So come out, get your tickets for that when they're available. They're not available yet. And Chloe, this has been so much fun. I wish we had a little bit more time together, but you have done the world a favor and helped us prove that you can laugh at your insecurities.
Hell yeah.
You can't laugh at that.